since last week, my wife and myself and the people who are working with us, we've been involved in 3 chatunot, 3 weddings, 3 beautiful weddings, each one beautiful in their own right. I want to speak to you about one that we did in Gateshead. The fact that we got there in the first place was an absolute miracle. The wedding was on Thursday and the weather conditions were absolutely appalling. My wife had the foresight to go on the night before. I had to stay because I had a wedding the night before, so I had to come up on the day. And trains were cancelled, trains were derailed, and there was trees that fell on the tracks, all sorts of stuff happening. And Baruch Hashem, we ended up getting there in time to do our work. And the wedding was, the Ruach, the atmosphere in Gateshead is unbelievable. They have Bachurim come at the end of the wedding and they clear out the tables and everyone's dancing and besimcha. It's amazing. But we were traveling back my car on Friday and people told us leave at 7 in the morning if you want to stand any chance of getting home in time for Shabbat. So we were understandably nervous because by the time we got back from the wedding, it was whatever time it was, AM on Friday morning. We're coming back in the car and we're davening, etc. We should get back in time for Shabbat. Just, for emergency, we brought with us chalot and wine just in case we were stranded over Shabbat. Who knows? But as it happens, we came back, Baruch Hashem, in good time for Shabbat. It's 4.5 hours from Gateshead to London. It took 4.5 hours. Miracle. On Friday with the Friday traffic. And there was even traffic actually on the way back as well. Still, we got there on time. So my first thought was, what was all the fuss about? Everyone's telling us, be careful, leave at 7 in the morning, and you don't know what's going to happen. And then I thought to myself, how could I ever think such a thought? And I remembered the thought that we spoke about with Leah and Rachel, our 2 imaot, the 2 of the matriarchs. Because Rachel did so much for her sister Leah without Leah even realizing, and to such an extent that Leah was resentful that Rachel took her husband Yaakov. Leah was like, how could you come and take my husband? How could you? And Rachel had every right to turn around and say, how could you say such a thing? I gave you the signs. Everything was me. He loved me. He didn't love you. So how could you? She kept her mouth shut. So for Leah, what seemed like a happenstance, there was actually so much going on behind the scenes. So the same thing here. We could turn around in a very peripheral, what do you call it, blasé fashion, and just say, it was a 4.5 hour journey, that was it. Why was everyone making us worry so much? Okay, Shabbat, you want to worry about Shabbat, but everyone was, portending doom and gloom and you're going to break Shabbat and everything. But how do we know? Hashem didn't give us siyata d'shmaya and help us and let us cut through the traffic so that we avoided the traffic. We don't know that. So much so that we could turn around and say, what was all the fuss about? So a person must never feel blinded to the situation that, things happen as happenstance. And there's no, we should always be thankful for everything, no matter how natural and how normal it seems. We're the beginning of the parasha, which is the last parasha in Bereshit. Already we've finished Sefer Bereshit. It's amazing. We're going to start on to the Geula now in the the book of Shemot. But in the end, Vayechi begins with the end of Perek Mem Zayin, and Pasuk, we'll go to Pasuk Chavtet. Vayikruvu Yemei Yisrael Lamut. Jacob now, he knew he was going to die. Jacob himself prayed to be ill. Yeah, very odd to think, why would somebody pray to be ill? The answer to that question is simple. You look at the Midrash. The Midrash tells us that before Jacob, nobody fell ill with any type of fatal illness. Nobody had Yena Machla, nobody had any type of a chronic or terminal condition. People used to die, they used to sneeze, and before you could say La Briot, they were dead. That was it. The neshama came from, I don't want to point on myself, but the neshama came from the nose and would go out through the nose, like you'd upchi, and that's it, finished. So Yaakov said, look, how can we set our affairs in order? If you just die, what's going to happen? What's going to be with the will? I needn't tell you how many problems are caused by people who die intestate, which means they don't have a will. And then everyone starts arguing and this and that and whatever. You know how many machlokot, how many families fall apart when there's an argument about the will. Any argument about money, when it comes to that subject, it's a very sore subject. So here Yaakov prayed. He was so much moser nefesh. He gave himself so much. He said, I'm going to institute the fact that somebody deteriorates before he passes away, so they can set his affairs in order. And that's exactly what happened. So he came close. He knew he was going to die. He called Joseph, his son, that he spent so many years apart from Yosef, 22 years. And he said to his son, if I found favor in your eyes, which is an amazing statement. A father saying to his son, if I found favor in your eyes, do me, in Yiddish you say, tut mir a toiva, do me a favor. Do a chesed ve'emet, do a chesed of truth with me. We'll discuss that in a minute. Don't bury me in Egypt. I'm not from this place. I don't want to be buried here. I want to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. So what's this chesed ve'emet? Chesed, kindness, ve'emet, and truth. So the answer is that chesed ve'emet is the special chesed, which is way, way, way above other types of chesed, and that is the chesed of dealing with somebody who's passed away. Any mitzvah, any chesed that's done with a dead person is of a different level to any other type of chesed. Why is that? Because the normal answer that we're given is that there's no form of payback from the person who passed away. Of course, they can't pay you and they can't thank you. You can't even have the pleasure or the benefit of seeing them smile and say, thank you very much for helping me. Like with any other type of chesed. Not that you should look for that. A person should never look for that. Because if you look for that and you don't get that, then you'll feel resentful. Yeah, a person shouldn't feel resentful if he doesn't get a pat on the back, however nice this may be. By the way, that only goes for the person receiving the pat on the back. It doesn't mean you're exempt from giving somebody a pat on the back. You should always do that. That's hakarat tov. That's the backbone and the bedrock of Hashem's universe, is hakarat tov, recognizing the good. So chesed shel emet is the chesed that's done with somebody who cannot reciprocate. Now, I was reminded when I was preparing this shir about the story of when of my uncle Levi, alav shalom, who took a taxi once many years ago in Israel, and he got talking to the taxi driver, and they struck up a conversation, And he took the taxi driver's number, and he said, look, when I need another taxi ride, I'll call you directly. Fine. So he called him directly, and then that developed into third time, fourth time, and they struck up a friendship. They became very friendly, so much so he became a very close family friend, not just an acquaintance. And this developed over months and years, and this happened when my cousins, my Uncle Levi's children, were all very young. So this fellow, whose name was Chaim, he ended up coming to all the bar mitzvahs. I think he even came to one or two of the weddings. So he became a lifelong family friend. And it developed into such a close friendship that when my Uncle Levi died, that I remember on one of the yard sites, I think it must have been round about the year 2001, when I went to the Bet HaKvarot, the cemetery, to attend the yearly prayers, that he was there, that Chaim was there, and he came. He came every year, by the way. But I just remember particularly this, because I didn't go every year for his yard site, but I went that year and I saw him there, and I saw the sadness on his face, and I saw that after we did the prayers, etc., at the graveside, that he came. Nobody told him to do this. He came, he took a smartut, which is a cloth, and he was cleaning the matzeva, was cleaning the gravestone of all the stones and the schmutz and everything. And his face, I don't know how he kept a straight face. He looked like he was about to burst out crying. And I thought to myself, let's trace all that back, however many years, 20, 30 years. My Uncle Levi could have gone in that taxi at the end of the journey, paid the money and walked out. That's it. He would never even have experienced that friendship. And you see how that incident, that one time in the taxi, how it was mitgalgel, how it snowballed. And it came so much so that this taxi driver fellow was cleaning, he did that chesed shel emet. How important it is when we're in a situation that we get a one-time opportunity to do something, and we never know if that's going to go anywhere. It's like what they call it, the butterfly effect. Who knows when that's going to end? You see this one act of, instead of sitting in a taxi stony face and thinking, I can't be bothered to talk to somebody, I can't be bothered to smile at somebody, I want to just keep to myself. He engaged in conversation. And you see where that led to the ultimate chesed, the chesed shel emet. Now, I just mentioned now that the normal way we explain the importance of this chesed, of dealing with people who, God forbid, pass away, how important it is, because a person doesn't expect to be paid back. But there's a deeper spin on this particular idea that's given by Rav Yaakov Neiman, who, and I mentioned this in previous shiurim. Oh, by the way, there are a few shiurim on this week's parasha, one of which was already out. Without my knowledge, it went out on TorahAnytime.com. I was very pleased about that. They put it out without me even knowing. It's brilliant. So the shiurim are Afterglow. There's Brothers in Arms. There's From Slave Boy to Viceroy, and Born to Serve. All of those shiurim are on this week's parasha. You might have a few different ideas there. If you want anything interesting or juicy from this week's parasha. So I mentioned this idea from Rav Yaakov Neiman about getting a payback, and there's no chance of any payback if you're dealing with a person who's already passed away. But Rav Yaakov Neiman says it's not just that a person won't get any material reward or any benefit whatsoever. It's that a person who does this type of chesed, who does this type of tipul, who's metapel, who deals with things like the burial society, which we call the Chevra Kadisha, and who deals with tahara when they put the dead body, God forbid, when they put the dead body in the mikveh, etc. All these type of chasadim, a person doesn't feel like he wants to be paid. He doesn't feel like he wants to have any benefit. He's not fussed. He's not going to stand on his, dig his dig his heels in the ground and say, look, hey, I did so much. Where's my money? Because doing a type of chesed like this, and it doesn't have to be dealing with the Chevra Kadisha. It can be just going to the cemetery, going and visit, on the day of the Petira, the day of the passing, the anniversary of the passing, to go to the graveside. A person doesn't feel, oh, I did such a great thing. I really hope the family realizes the effort that I gave to go and visit, the family member on the anniversary of their passing. What a great, you owe me one. That's not what it's all about. A person, when he does this type of chesed, it totally knocks out any feelings of, you have to give me appreciation. It gives a person a new perspective on life. And things really do fall by the wayside. And we realize how much of our lives are full of what they call in Yiddish, Narishkeit. Bubkas. These things don't matter. I'll mention a story. It's not in my notes. And I've said it a few times before, but it was told to me by Diane Abraham. And I want to say in his name because I want him to shlap nachas from it, first of all, because it's a fantastic story. It's a mashal, not a true story. It shows you a little bit about how a person should have a perspective on life. There's once a fellow who was down on his luck. And, of course, the bills were racking up. And his family was suffering. There was no food on the table. So he decided, whatever little money he had in his pocket, he's going to go and buy a lottery ticket. I think, you know what? Let's just go for broke, pay the money, and buy the ticket. So he puts the numbers in. Of course, being a from person, and he was very into the numerology, so he put 13, 18, 26, 36, all the numbers connected with Hashem. And now he's got the ticket in front of him. They're drawing the numbers, and he's seeing he's got the first one right, the second one right. He's thinking, I won £10, at least I won £10. The third one right. Now he's thinking, oh, that's interesting. The fourth one he gets right. Now he's thinking, oh my gosh, I got 4 numbers right. This is really going my way. 5 numbers right, 6 numbers right. So, after a couple of minutes, the family managed to revive him, give him something to drink, and he wakes up. Was it a dream? After picking him up the floor, was it a dream? And he's pinching himself. He looks at the numbers. Oh my gosh, 6 numbers right. I'm a millionaire. Now what happens? He cannot wait to go and cash in this thing and get his check. He runs as fast as he can. As he's going past, he sees his disgruntled neighbor who he had a broigers with, and this neighbor had borrowed a lawnmower from him, and he never returned it back. And now the fellow passed, his neighbor, and his neighbor says, "You know what? I'm really sorry. I realized I borrowed your lawnmower for too long. I should give a lawnmower. Who cares about the lawnmower?" He's screaming as he's running to cash in his ticket. "Keep the lawnmower!" Big smile on his face. His neighbor's like, "What?" He runs past, and there's another fellow who he had a machloket with in shul. And the fellow says, "You really shouldn't have shouted at me in shul." And the fellow, he's too busy running past him to get it. "I forgive you from the bottom of my heart. I really do. I love you." And I did. And the fellow thinks, "What? Yesterday he was shouting at me. How come now he's so happy?" And he keeps meeting people, and he doesn't care. He couldn't care less. Why? Because he realizes he's got the most valuable thing in the world. He's got his key to Parnassah. What does that whole story mean? It means that so often in our lives we get caught up in these little tiny things. And little tiny things are these little arguments and little pettinesses. Do you remember the phrase that we coined over a number of shiurim? We gave it a name. We call it Makpidity. You're being so particular about something. You got this cockroach in your head. No, I've got to stand up for my rights. This is the principle of the thing, like Rabbi Franz says. I've got to go for the principle. The principle normally is a byword for the Yetzer Hara. I've got to go. I've got to bash the person over the head because I'm a tzaddik. I'm doing the right thing. These things are such narishkeit. They're so petty and insignificant when you realize you've got a big paycheck at the end of it. You're not going to start making a fuss because you realize that life means something else. You've got something so important in your life. Now, we give the mashal of a lottery ticket, but lahavdil elaf avdalot, to make a complete separation, we have something that's more valuable than anything in the world. It's more valuable than the universe itself. It's called the Torah. And that's ours. That's ours. As 0.02% of the world population, we have this privilege. We can learn and keep the Torah. The Gentiles can't keep the Torah. They can't keep Shabbat. A Gentile who wants to keep Shabbat fully, chayv mitah. It sounds very cruel. Yeah, it does sound cruel, but hey, when you trace it back, they were given a fair crack at the whip. Does it mean that they can never keep the Torah? No, you can become a Noachite. You can keep 7 mitzvahs. And if you keep those 7 mitzvahs properly, you got an amazing chelek in Olam Haba waiting for you. Fantastic. You keep them, and yeah, I don't know how it compares to the Jews' share in Olam Haba, but it certainly is a chelek. It's not even worth thinking about. You just got to keep the 7 of them. So when you have something like the Torah, which is incomparable to anything in existence, what's the point of getting caught up with silly things? Concentrate on your big prize, which you can eat that. You can take advantage of that prize in this world and gain life in the world to come. It's win-win. It's win-win. To live a life of Torah and mitzvot is win-win. People who take Torah and they push it by the wayside, they should realize what they're giving up on. Because if you do that, then you're going to get caught in these little minutiae, these little tiny broigeses and incidents that take up so much of your time. They should not take up so much of your time. They shouldn't take so much of your head space. Your head needs to be used for more important things, more sublime things, than getting caught up in these little pettinesses. So a person, when he deals with Chesed Shel Emet, he has this perspective on life. Moving on to the next parak Mem Chet, which is Moach, brain. Let's look at Mem Chet, Pasuk Chaf Beit. Vani natati lecha Shechem. Now, Jacob is talking to his son Joseph. He says, I gave you Shechem, Shechem, Achad alachecha asher kakti miyad ha'emori b'charbi uvakashti, which I took from the Emori, the tribe of the Emori, with my sword and with my bow. That's strange, because Yaakov did not take Shechem with his sword and his bow. It was his 2 sons, Shimon and Levi, who, as part of their Bar Mitzvah boys outing, they went and they killed every person in Shechem. They were literally 13 years old. They came and with their sword, and it wasn't Yaakov who did that. So what does it mean? I took Shechem with my sword and my bow. So to answer that, there's a famous answer. You need look no further than the Targum Onkelos, which is the Aramaic translation, which is by the side of many Chumashim. You can see on this pasuk it translates the words B'charbi uvakashti, which is my sword and my bow. It translates it to the Aramaic Bitzloti ubabauti, my sword and with my pleading, my asking. What does that mean? It means, what's the best and effective way of fighting in this world, not with physical means. How do we fight our war on our terms? Our war is not a war of weapons. Our war is a war with our mouths, with prayer. Bitzloti or bauti, with my prayer and with my pleadings to Hashem, my requests to Hashem. That's how we fight the war on our terms. So you can ask the question, what is a sword and a bow, as in bow and arrow, keshet? What's that got to do with prayer and with pleading and requesting from Hashem? Why don't you just say, like that? It's translated to Aramaic, my tehilati ubabakashati, with my prayer and with my requests. It would sound much better. So the answer is, says the Brisker Rav, that you have to understand what is a bow and what is a sword. Well, of course, they're both weapons of war. But a sword, if you have a sword, anybody can use a sword. If you're brave enough, that is. You take a sword, and if you see an enemy, you stab them with it. Don't try this at home, by the way. But it's very easy. It doesn't require any skill. You know, anyone who's past the age of knowing that things that are sharp hurt will know that a sword can kill people. I wouldn't give a baby a razor blade, because a baby doesn't know that the razor blade is deathly sharp. But a child of a few years old who's already had a little prick with a needle or cut himself on a paper cut or something will know that sharp things hurt. Therefore, anyone knows to hurt somebody with a sword is very easy. But a bow and arrow, that's a bit difficult. Anyone who's tried archery will know it's not easy to even put the arrow into the bow, pull it back, and then you do it, and then it flies behind you. And then it flies to the left and to the right, anywhere but the target. And then even if you get the target, who says you're going to get a bullseye? It's very hard. It's a skill to use a bow and arrow. Yeah, that's the difference between these two weapons of war. Now, how do they relate, says the Brisker Rav, to prayer and to requests? The sword is linked to prayer, because just like the sword can be used effectively by anybody, so too with prayer. The beautiful prayers which were formulated for us by the Anshe Knesset HaGadola, by the men of the Great Assembly, you can say a prayer and it will be effective. All the work has been done for you. All the words, all the holy, the holiness that went into the formation of the prayer, or the Ruach HaKodesh, that's all been done already. We have a formula ready-made for us. You don't have to think outside of the box. You don't have to add in any other ingredients. You've got prayer, you've got the Amida, you can say it, preferably with kavanah, with intention. But even if a person, I'm not saying you should, but even if a person prays without concentration, it can still be answered. Of course, it's the proper way to pray is to concentrate on what you're saying. But anybody can do it. You can read and you can pray. But ask a request for Hashem, that already you've got to be on a different level. That already is a skill, like a bow and arrow. You've got to train. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know how to put the bow and stretch the I don't know what it's called, the stretchy bit, and then do it so that it flies forward and not behind you or to the side. That's already a skill. So to ask Hashem for a request with your own terms, with your own words, and your own formulation, that requires much more. You've got to be a Baal Madrega. You've got to be on a different level. That's why, really, if people come to us and say, look, I pray to God, but I don't pray from the prayer book. I don't pray that the 18 or 19 blessings. I pray to God with my own words. Now that's good. I'm not saying that is good. Of course, it's always good to pray to God anyway, whether from the book or not. But you want to have all the work done for you. You just got to concentrate and say the words and mean the words. Then you'll pray from the prayer book. You'll pray Shachrit or Mincha or Arbeit or all three. Preferably all three, especially if you're a man. But when you pray with your own words already, you got to know what to say. You got to know the concentration. You got to know what to ask for. What's the correct thing? There's so many factors there. So it's highly advisable to go for the bow. Sorry, for the sword, because there already the work's done for you. You've got a ready-made tool called prayer that already is tried and tested for thousands of years. That was the Brisker Rav's thought, by the way. Okay, now, let's see how we're doing for time. Now, towards the end of the parasha, there is this incident with the burial of Yaakov. And we spoke in previous shiurim about how Yaakov's burial was halted by the arch nemesis, Esav. Uncle Esav turns up at the burial and he says, "Whoa, what's going on here?" So they say, "Look, we're burying our father in Makpidity, in the cave of Makpidity, which he bought in Parashat Chai Sarah. He bought it from Ephron. He bought it fair and square." So Esav again kicks up a fuss. He's always kicking up a fuss. He says, "No, that's my place. I'm supposed to be buried in there, not Yaakov, not my brother." And then there's a big fight. "No, but then he bought it from you." So Esav said, "What do you mean he bought it from you? You have to prove it to me." "Yeah, he bought it from you, but we've got a document. It's not here." So Esav said, "Okay, where is it? You have to bring it to me. I'm not taking anything on hearsay. So where is it?" "It's in Egypt." "Okay, so bring it to me and then we'll talk." So now everything is halted. And they send Naphtali, who was the quick one, they send Naphtali running back to Egypt to go and retrieve the document that proved that Yaakov bought the field, the burial plot of Machpelah, fair and square from his brother, which he did. So now all this is happening. There's one person there who's observing everything, and he has no idea what's going on. He's got sound, but no audio. Who is this person? Hushim, who is the son of Dan, is one of the tribes. Hushim is deaf, and he's just watching everything in vision. There's no audio. He's got no headphones. All he sees is the burial stopped. He sees his great uncle Esav there, and there's some argument. Obviously, he can't hear what's going on. Maybe in those days they didn't have sign language, and he couldn't lip read. He's watching that, and the coffin is sitting there, and knew what's happening. And he sees his great uncle Esav getting more and more angry. So now what does he do? He thinks, this Esav is up to one of his tricks. And my grandfather Jacob is disgraced here. What on earth is going on? I'm going to put a stop to this. He gets up, takes a stick, smack, hits Esav in the head with a stick, knocks his head off. His head goes rolling into Machpelah. That's the end of Esav. So Esav does get to be buried in Machpelah, except it was only with part of his body. From the neck downwards, forget that. The head upwards, that got to be buried in Machpelah. So what's going on here? Hushim comes and he kills his great uncle. Why did he do? And they say because Esav had the death sentence on him anyway. So then why did Hushim come and kill him? Why didn't anybody else get up and say, look, you're chayv mitar, we have to take you? Nothing. Hushim just comes and he kills him, finished. Everyone else is probably standing aghast, gobsmacked, don't know what's going on. Why did Hushim spring into action and nobody else sprang into action? The answer is a very sobering answer, and it affects in many, many areas in life. The answer is that the other tribes were dealing with the situation as it was coming. In other words, because obviously they were fully capable with all their senses, they saw the whole thing unfolding. They saw Esav come along. Esav makes his request. Now, of course, at that point there was outrage. But then hang on, let's be fair. Let's prove it. We can't prove it. We've got to get the proof. Let's go out. Things started rolling on stage by stage. And then suddenly, what was initially an outrage, it was ridiculous, it was cruel, suddenly things started getting a bit, for want of a better word, it's probably the wrong words to use, but things started getting a bit politically correct. Hang on, we can't just take this, we can't just rush this. We have to go. He's making an observation. He needs proof. And then, people were taking things in their stride, and suddenly it became an issue, and this thing was getting worse and worse. Hushim said, this is ridiculous. This cannot happen. This is a bizayon for Yaakov Avinu. And I will not stand for this. Ani lo mevater. I will not, mevater means to get, I will not,
Permission.
no, mevater means,
I will not allow that.
I will not allow this. This cannot be allowed. This cannot be allowed. And he took the action in his own hands. So the other tribes were guilty of being, obviously this is on their own level, of being desensitized. Suddenly the problem was ludicrous. And then suddenly it's like, okay, now they got a little bit more used to it. And then, they got involved in it. And then time was passing and things were settling. The dust was settling. Now the thing we learn from this is that a person, whenever he feels outrage at something, now of course I don't want this to go to be misunderstood, because this is not an open invitation for kanaut, for kanos, for zealotry. If something's wrong, come and take a gun and shoot somebody. Chas v'chalila. Chas v'chalila. God forbid. We're talking about the Shvatim and their children. They're on a level we can't even begin to comprehend. I'm talking about a person who feels outraged at indignity to Hashem, in breaking of mitzvot, in disgrace of the Torah. When a person hears Hashem being disgraced, it should revulse a person. It should cause a person to feel such pain and tsar for Hashem that pain needs to be kept at the forefront of a person's mind. You should deal with it. You should have that. Like, for instance, if you see wanton eating of treif, people eat treif. Now, initially, when you go and see Jewish people eating nevelot or treifot, you feel sickened. In the workplace, you come and you bring to my table, you're eating pork, you're eating shellfish, and you're a Jew. Again, let's put this into context. I'm not saying go and whack them over the head and shout and say, how dare you, you're going to Gehinnom. No. Feel outrage. Don't necessarily express the outrage. But you must feel that this is wrong. You mustn't feel this is wrong and then the next day, well, you know what? He doesn't know. And then suddenly you get more and more used to it. And then somebody brings treif to your table. Oh, never mind. What could you do? Poor fellow. He doesn't know. But what have you done about it? 2 months ago you felt sickened by a Jew breaking the Torah. And it's terrible. And you need to do something about it. You need to say something to the fellow. You need to put your arm around him and say, Habibi, look, maybe I'll take you out for lunch. Let's go to Bloom's. Let's go to Kai Fang. Maybe not Kaifeng, it's very expensive there, but let's go to Deli Burger, whatever restaurant. Take him to a restaurant for lunch. Say, you know what, leave that. I'll treat you. Yeah, but deal with it. Deal with it. Don't get used to it. And then now it doesn't matter to me. After 2-3 months, Nebuch on the guy, what can I do? You can do. I'm not saying take a stick and knock his head off, but do something. Do something. Feel the injustice of the situation, and do something about it. Take an action. Take an action. In our days, we're not zealots, but we're zealot to do a mitzvah, to smile at a Jew and put an arm around a Jew. Not unless it's a female, right? If it's female to female, fine, or male to male. But we want to at least figuratively hug them and say, Habibi, come, let me help you, let me show you another way. It doesn't have to be that way, but you've got to deal with it. You have to deal with it. This is the lesson we're learning from Hushim Ben Dan. He said, I can't even see what's going on. I can't hear. All I visualize here in front of me is it's injustice, and it's got to be dealt with. So the same thing for us. If you see people breaking Shabbat, don't ignore them. Don't pretend it's not happening. Pick yourself up and invite that person for Shabbat. Yeah, you should say Nebuch, poor fellow, and I do feel sorry for him, but don't let it stop there. Take action, take action, take action straight away. That's the only way we're going to do it. If we get used to it, then we get lulled, we get desensitized, we get anesthetized, and then now we're on LSD. Nothing matters. We're Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Well, it doesn't matter. LSD. I don't. It's not my problem now. I've got my own problem. Let them do. No. Why are you taking LSD? Take action. Do the right thing. And we're going to finish now. It's a little bit shorter share this week. The famous question, the question which we addressed in the share Brothers in Arms, that now on Yaakov's deathbed, Yosef brings his 2 sons to their Zeder, and he's giving them a bracha. He says this, Hamalach Hagol Mikol Ra, and there's the blessing Yisimcha Elokim Ke'Ephraim Mechim Menashe. The classic blessing which every parent gives their child. You can actually give this every day, but on Friday night, on Shabbat, we bless our children with this bracha. May you be blessed like Ephraim and Menashe. And that's for boys. For girls, we say, Yisimech Elokim Kesara, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. May you be blessed like the matriarchs, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. But there's a little bit of a mismatch there. If we're blessing the girls with the matriarchs, then we should bless the boys like the patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. What's this Ephraim and Menashe? They're not even tribes. I mean, they are tribes, but they're not the sons of Jacob. They're the grandsons of Jacob. So why are we blessing with these 2 names? Why don't we just say to the boys, may you be blessed like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? It's a famous question, and there are a number of answers. The most famous answer, I believe, is that we bless our children, may you be blessed like Ephraim and Menashe, because Ephraim and Menashe were disadvantaged in a way unlike any of the other tribes, because they were born and bred in exile. They lived in Egypt. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they all spent time, Yitzchak entirely spent time in Canaan, in Israel. The tribes brought up in Israel. They were all Israeli. But Ephraim and Menashe were brought up in Egypt with all the filth and all the schmutz and all the plasma TVs and all the internet and all the garbage and the nonsense. And they remained beautiful. And they became 2 of the tribes. They got equal status with their uncles. Yeah? Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and at the end, Ephraim and Menashe. Yeah? They were nephews. What are they doing in there? What about their father Joseph? No, we have Ephraim and Menashe. Because they were brought up in Galut. They survived the test of being in exile, and they stayed on the straight and narrow. So we want to bless our children. Listen, now we're in Galut, now we're in exile. We don't have Mashiach here. We don't have prophet, we don't have Nevi'im. We don't have our land, even though we think we have Israel. The Torah is being disgraced on a daily basis. We want to bless our children to survive those tests. To be like the fellow with the lottery ticket, the winning lottery ticket. To realize that you've got the Torah, you've got the greatest thing. If you can survive in Galut, if we give you this prayer, you stand a fighting chance. That's the classic reason. There are a couple of other minor reasons which I want to give. We say, Yisrael Elokim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe. Not Menashe and Ephraim, but Ephraim and Menashe. Even though Menashe was the older boy, we don't mention him first. Why? We don't say, may you be blessed like Leah and Sarah. Leah was the wife of Yaakov, and Sarah was the wife of Avram. There's an age order there. So why are we saying, may be blessed like Ephraim the younger and Menashe the older? Should switch the... And the answer is that Ephraim signified Torah, and Menashe signified Parnasah. Or it could be the other way around. That we want to bless... No, it's the right way around, I believe. We want to bless our children that they become... that they value and put the emphasis on Torah first and foremost. And then they put the emphasis on Parnasah and living and the material way of life. We want to put the emphasis on the spiritual before the physical. That's a very important point. And thirdly, when you bless your children like Ephraim and Menashe, you're actually blessing for want of a better phrase, the byproduct, the end product of an Avram, a Yitzchak, and a Yaakov. What do you have when you have them? Our holy fathers and Joseph, and look who came out of that, Ephraim and Menashe, who kept themselves holy despite all the odds. When you have that, you're automatically giving a person a blessing. You know where this blessing comes from? It comes through the providence of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It comes through our Avot. This product of Ephraim and Menashe didn't happen automatically. They were children of Yosef. Yosef was brought up for 17 years by his father Yaakov. He put everything into him. So automatically you're blessing your children to be like Ephraim and Menashe. They are a byproduct of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So automatically you're including their blessing as well. But lastly, this is a very beautiful explanation why we bless our children to be like Ephraim and Menashe. Because Ephraim and Menashe had a potential. What was their potential? To be the best they could be given their circumstances. And their circumstances were not very good. They had idols to the left, idols to the right, debauchery in front of them, debauchery behind them, all the worst things, the nightclubs and everything. They had to look out the window and it was there. It was all over Egypt. It was Las Vegas and the Bronx and Soho and all mixed into one. Terrible place it was. So their potential was to rise above it. But not only did they rise above it, but they also achieved the status of being tribes, as we mentioned before, in their own right. So they exceeded their potential. I believe this is from Rav Yaakov Weinberg. They exceeded their potential. They rose to the level of the generation above them, their uncles. What better bracha to give your children? Not only do I bless you that you should be achieving your potential, but you should even exceed your potential. You can even rise above to become holy like the generations before you. Yehi Ratzon, all of us, should instill in our children and our families the values that are going to make them achieve their potential and are going to make them exceed their potential.